Thank you so much, engineer, for this rich presentation, for informative one. We serve the whole world looking for digitization models. We went to Cameroon, Kenya, referred to blockchain very briefly, and then visited other 10 countries, China, Singapore, among other countries, and we discovered that we are very far from these countries. But these experiences are very useful, and the last point you referred to is very important because this is the entry point for all the coming workshops. You would take into consideration the current situation and the ideal situation. We are lagging behind time. Time is running out. We have only 6 or 7 minutes to receive your questions. Please pose very precise telegraphic questions. Supposedly, governments will implement the or will start in 2019-22 in operating the new administrative capital, and they want only 50,000 public servants, as this would be like paperless government. And up till now, we do not have like real preparation on the ground about the future situation that has to do with the local municipalities and the way to deal with the capitals. Also, moving to the legislative part, do we have anything to care for the data protection? What about the freedom of information and data? There would be like a disruption for the whole system. We'd have a new paperless administrative capital and a very traditional local councils. Now the whole question, or these question, will be covered during the coming 20 workshops. Please introduce yourself. Ali Ragab, lawyer, MA in law. In these insightful presentations, I learned a lot, and I want to thank all of you. But I want to refer to things from a legal perspective. We need some legal protection for investors and users. For example, we should focus on the procedural and substance point of view. We should protect investors and users. We will hold a detailed workshop on these elements. So please make sure that your question or comment speaks to the things we covered. Okay, so we need to take things from a legal perspective. We want to have precautionary laws. We want to update the current laws. I want to pose a question here, or two questions, because I was really interested to see the different experiences and how can we overcome socio-economic challenges, especially in African countries, because of course you can find many similarities. Egypt might be worse in certain cases, but my question is, how can you prepare the less educated and the marginalized brackets into this digital transformation? How we do so? Second, it might be covered in the plan for the workshops, but we need to focus on the most marginalized brackets. So, for example, poor women. Can poor women use technology in the first place? And would that serve them to improve their economic situation, especially in Egypt or countries that face similar circumstances. So I wish the coming workshops would answer these two questions. I focus on the socio aspects of the digitalization because things are getting more difficult with poverty on the rise, with more class divides, among other social challenges. As for the objectives of the workshops, that has to do with coming with a vision or a detailed research agenda in order to serve or to give a consultation for the government. If this is the objective, then we need to change the mindset here. This recipe will be handed to the government. So we shouldn't delve into the details of the institutions. We should focus on the government experiences. Of course, your presentations are very informative and insightful and enriching our culture, but the focus here should be on other countries' experiences, especially from an institutional point of view. Are we talking here about ministries, institutions, how to coordinate? Because everyone is working on like isolated islands. This is real challenge here. So, for example, I knew about it from the press, and I work in the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Can you imagine? Yes, we have a portfolio about the digital industries and e-commerce, but I learned about this symposium from the press. Also, what is the role of the private sector in this transformation? Third, what is the role of the consultancies? Uh, will it be like a business, or they will train people in different sectors? Maybe we can have a company working on a factory, on a certain factory, to digitize this factory. So we should select certain places in order to establish the piloting program. We have 27 million dropouts in Egypt. How can we prepare these people for digitization? Also, are we going to focus on government services digitalization when it comes to like fees collection or tax collection, bill or electricity meters, agriculture procedures, or we are referring here to entertainment, for example? And how did countries set priorities? Because we cannot start digitization from A to Z. So where to start, and what are the sectors to be targeted, and what are the percentage of this digitization in certain sectors, upon which shall we select these sectors? You should have selected the first workshop, and I want you to keep this long list of questions, because these questions need to be answered in at least 1 year after research. We break down the elements of this process. What should we do, where, and how? I cannot answer all your questions in one go, to be honest with you. Yes, that's why I told you you need to have a look on the previous workshop and on the plan for the coming workshops. We have a comprehensive plan that has to do with governments, institutions, entities. We are posing the very same questions from different perspectives. So by the end of the workshops, we would answer all your questions. Last two comments, please, because of time constraints. And I would like to give panelists some minutes to answer. The director of updating the programs, commenting on what he said. Of course, digital consultancies for companies or organizations are very important and should be taken into consideration. It's expensive, of course, and maybe small companies cannot afford that, so maybe we can form an entity or a committee to do so, to provide digital consultancies. Last comment, please. Hisham Slim, EU delegation in Cairo. Is there any relation between the political evolution or political progress and digital transformation? Maybe this answers the questions why things are very slow here. I think it's such a naive question. I'm sorry to say so.
معلش 1 minute يعني each عشان خاطر for time consideration. اتفضل يا سيدي.
Okay, thank you. I would like to address the question by the lady about how the e-economy or e-governments will have an effect on the poor, how it can serve them. This, if I understood the question, is that the question? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this question is really a challenge for our countries, especially the African countries. One would say we are here eking out an existence. So sometimes you don't have even what to eat. How are you talking to us about e-economy? The answer I would say is very simple. Today, in each of our villages, you will see people using, phones. So it means that, through that, we can make the changes. One of the reasons why we, insisted that everybody should register on I take our example, is because if you don't push them to really understand that they have to be connected, then you are going nowhere. So they have needs. Even if somebody does not eat, he knows that he wants to go to hospital. If he goes to the hospital, if over there, the system that is being utilized is the system that is advanced, compulsory for him to understand the need of being, connected. So it depends on the government to now devise ways. You see it in Rwanda, now in the remote areas of Rwanda, when people, they have issues about health. Now, what are they doing? They use the midwives there that have been already trained to make the diagnosis on the spot, and they send the result to central hospitals where doctors who are there could take the decision and send the recommendation for treating the ailments. So it is a must. You cannot, because you are poor or this something that you have to connect with the world. So now it's up to the government to see the best way of doing it cheaply and accurately and efficiently.
Well, what I want to say here in only 1 minute, and building on what the engineer said, the focus here should be on the success factors in digitization. And here I'm referring to the will. And we should have one single authority governing the whole process. So first we need to identify what to focus on and what are the advantages, because you can do many things, or you need to do many things with very limited resources, because this is a good strategy. What to do using the very limited available resources. We have a long list of priorities, but we need to rearrange this list. Second, in answering your questions, following on what His Excellency the Ambassador said, for example, blockchain is a very advanced technology. You can say that we can only use that in 3,000 years, for example. But because of the effect of the blockchain, it's rolled out. We have another experience in Kenya. We did a pilot for housewives paying for everything through the phone. They could even ask for loans through phones. The whole suppliers can send certain commodities for people to sell, and these housewives sell these products on this online platform using the blockchain technology. And we are not even talking about the capital of Kenya, no, about the remote villages. So there is room for technology to be played. We can adapt what we have and build on it. Again, you need like a gap to fill or a shortcut if you take all the details into consideration. Thank you so much. I will start with Hisham's comment. There is no relation between political progress and digitization. So Singapore has a godfather. Korea was a dictatorship, and then it transformed into a democratic. China is still a totalitarian country, but the main difference lies in two things here. First, readiness to listen, to learn, to recognize and to realize that we don't know. Dubai is a very progressive country now, not because it was the best, but because they lacked things. Sheikh Maktoum received the British businessman Fayed, remember Fayed, and he wanted to start a shipping company. He had no vision whatsoever. This man wanted to make some money from the shipping crossing the seas. But because he had nothing, Muhammad al-Fayed came and suggested to Maktoum this plan, and because he had no knowledge, he gave them the full freedom. Other countries hired consultants and listened to them. Our problem here in Egypt is that we have a civilization project since Khedive Ismail, and it's the same till now. We have not updated the project. We are still working on this project. Suez Canal, new capital, the very same project we have been working on since ages. And Khedive Ismail started free education being a compulsory service. We started before everyone. We started before Japan. 30 years before Japan, we had this free education, and Lord Krushmer said that Egypt does not have enough resources to finance everything, and we were very upset at that period because of the comments. We had a very proactive civil community. Japan, on the contrary, started 30 years after us, but they achieved the realistic programs they designed. It's very important to set a realistic goal here. When Malaysia leader Mahathir Mohamad started the Renaissance. He did not start with the 80 million people. No. He said, I will focus on 4 million people in 4 years to be like class A. We need to change the approach. We need to change the mindset. I also like to refer briefly to other elements. The institutional frameworks are very, very important. Very, very important and should be discussed in detail. We need to address this gap. Last but not least, the administrative capital. I think Dr. Ghada was here and she's responsible for this project, and she will transport 50,000 staff, and we do not have a comprehensive vision for the mechanism of the work there. I think this is like a premature project. It's very important, but we are rushing this project, and this hastiness might render it as a failure, unfortunately. Thank you so much for all of you. The presentations will be uploaded on our website tomorrow, and I would like to invite everyone to visit the links, especially the blockchain video, and please make sure to attend all the workshops, and we will issue a report after each workshop, because these reports will answer all the questions. Of course, we will take into consideration the marginalized groups in our research in order for it to be valid for our country. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Ambassador, for your time. We are pleased and honored to have you here. Thank you, engineers, for coming here. Thank you for all the audience.